Welcome to the Made in the Mist podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Now please welcome your hosts, Emma and Dan.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Made in the Mist podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, here in the Money Mint studio at the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub in beautiful Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. And as always, we bring in the best guest for this podcast, self-made entrepreneur right here from the Niagara region. Today, first I want to welcome my co-host, Emma. Before we get to the guest, Emma, how you doing?
Thanks. I'm good, Dan. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you again.
Perfect. And of course, the guest today, entrepreneur, real estate mogul, if we will. One of the fastest growing real estate companies in the country, right here, built in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, the first location was Niagara Falls. Yes.
And ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Serravalle, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being on the podcast. So you started the business, and we're gonna get right into it because we have a little bit of time. So I just wanted to say, okay, I know about your history. You went to Europe, played a little bit of basketball. Yeah, how was that?
A little bit. Yeah, I actually started in the States first.
Oh wow.
Went to prep school for 1 year.
Okay.
I was 18 years old. And I graduated high school in Thorold here, and then my father had a bad accident, and unfortunately I had to take a private prep school year in the United States in Massachusetts, which was the best thing I could have done because I got my life back in order. And then I played 4 years at the College of the Holy Cross. It was a Division I program.
Wow.
And then following that, then I traveled over to continue playing professional basketball in Europe.
Do you ever get into March Madness?
Yeah, so my junior year, my senior year, we got into March Madness. My junior year, we almost upset Kentucky in the first round.
Oh, wow.
At Nassau Coliseum in New York. And then my senior year, I was captain, and we almost beat actually, we were leading at halftime against the Kansas Jayhawks. They were the number one team in the country. We played where the St. Louis Rams play. And it went down to the wire, and then they beat us in the.
Wow!
Yeah,
So what an experience!
Great experience. Yeah.
And then to Europe. And where did you play in Europe?
So my first contract was in Poland.
Okay.
For about half a season, and then they stopped paying us, so then we had to leave. And then I traveled over to Italy, which was great.
Okay. Wow.
In a small town just outside of Milan, a town called Pavia.
Beautiful.
I finished the season there, and then afterwards I went over to play in a town called Mulhouse in France, which was a great season as well.
Oh wow, beautiful!
Yeah.
And then after that, you decided hang up the shoes.
Yeah, like what brought you home? What brought you back to Niagara?
I was always very close to my family, and I had to make a decision. I was around 27 years old. At that point, I had to decide, was I going to continue traveling and playing basketball or return back to my roots and get into business. I came from a business family. I wanted to establish, a rooted business in the Niagara Peninsula, and that's when I made the decision to return.
Wow. And then as soon as you returned, you went straight into creating a business?
Yeah, actually, when I was in Europe, I had the time after practice or during the week, so I got my real estate license online.
Okay, wow.
And then when I returned home, I wrote my exams. I also got my master's in education because at that time, both were very difficult positions, and I was kind of banking on which one would hire me first.
Yeah, of course.
So I did a little stint in high school teaching for about 3 years while I was selling real estate, and then once my real estate career sort of took off, I went full-fledged into real estate.
I mean, such a competitive landscape. I mean, you got your big giants, your Royal LePages, your Remaxes, and all the big ones, and you decided to take those on. So at what point did you decide, the heck with working for a real estate company, I'm going to start my own?
Well, I mean, I was born and raised from immigrant parents that came from southern Italy, poor. My landscape growing up, I witnessed, my parents waking up, working every day, consistent. I actually felt comfortable in an underdog space and playing basketball. I'm not the tallest, I'm just under 6 feet. And I was told all my life, you can't play in this sport. You don't belong. You should be playing soccer or tennis. And I guess in the course of my life, it just sort of motivated me to be in a space where I felt like I had to prove myself every single day. It kept me sharp. It kept me motivated. It's what, gave me the energy to work hard every day. So when it came into my real estate space, I could have worked for some of those larger established companies, but I thought I'd have more opportunity to be creative and be in that underdog mentality.
Sure.
And it would just keep me sharp and motivated. And that's what it's done for me the past 10 years.
So I know a lot of people, they try to start their own real estate, firms and things like that too. So At what point did you know you had something different, and it caused you to, essentially explode? I mean, you grew very fast, right? I mean, how many offices do you have now across Canada?
So we're just under 30 offices.
It's amazing.
We're about 450 realtors. This past year, we've taken on more offices, so I assume the agent count will continue to grow. We've signed other offices across Ontario right now that we haven't announced yet.
Wow.
So definitely the landscape is heading in the right direction. But it was just, I think in the industry, I was in it for about 7 years, and I felt that there was a need for a space with this independent space when it came to marketing and the creative side of the industry. Yeah. And I just enjoy being in that sort of challenger role.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And did you start it was it a sole proprietor? Did you start with yourself? Did you have any help? Did you find a business incubator like the Niagara Preservation Hub?
Yeah, you know what? No, I just went full-fledged into it. I opened up an office space. I'll never forget when I spoke to my father. I showed him the layout, and he looked at me and said, "It's too small. Double the space." And I said, "Well, why would I double the space when it's only myself?" And I hired my wife to be my deals manager on the back end. And he said, you're going to grow, and you have to think for the future that you're going to grow. And I did take up 2 spaces in a commercial plaza. And shortly after, I ended up breaking up the wall and opening to a 3rd location. Wow. where we built a basketball court in our office.
Come on.
As well. Yeah.
Wow. Just to keep the hoop dream alive.
Hoop dreams and in a space for meeting. We have meetings there. We have celebration parties there.
Yeah.
And it's a message to the entire group that we're very team oriented.
Exactly. That's a great idea. And, I guess, what you've defined yourself as different from the other, big players in the area. I know you said it was based on marketing. Is that what you thought made you different?
Yeah, I think just thinking outside the box, pushing the norm when it came to marketing. Mm-hmm. At the time, people, going back 10 years, they weren't using professional photographers. Video marketing wasn't being utilized. Mm-hmm. People were shy to be in front of the camera and be vulnerable, right? And I think in our position, people are hiring us and they're inviting us into their homes. Yes. Right? It's a sacred place. And if the public can get to know us on a more personal level, then we can connect better to the clients, right? Yeah. And I thought that was missing in our industry. Mm-hmm. We joked about people taking their headshots and not changing them, 20 years later, right? So we just wanted to be very current with what our marketing goals were, right?
Yeah. What would you say, what was your biggest challenge in the first year of business?
Well, anytime you enter into a space where there's established companies, they're definitely going to flex and put their elbows out and not accept you, initially, right? Yes. And you have to prove to them that you're doing the right things, that you're cooperating in the industry, you're doing, you're behaving ethically. And once we did that, it was after just, I would say around year 4, year 5, where the other companies started to say, okay, like, they're legit. They're doing the right things.
They're here to stay.
They're here to stay. Yeah. And, you mentioned a lot of companies have opened and closed because it's very difficult.
Well, that's exactly how do you maintain the operations, right? You got to have
sure.
And like the market, you can't control the market, right? And I mean, fortunate for you, when you entered the space, a couple of years later, you had the big rise.
Yeah,
right?
In 10 years, we saw many different markets. But you're exactly right, Dan. We were very fortunate that we caught a good time period.
Oh, and now it's
and now it's challenging. Yeah. So you have to go back to those base roots. The roots that again I was accustomed to seeing growing up from a very business oriented family. That you have to show up every day. You have to work hard every day and commit to those times because then you get through those difficult periods, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And was the support from your family essential to you? Feel like even your dad just helping you? See the vision, see the growth potential. Was that really key for you?
Yeah, oh for sure. I mean, he was very respected in business. My mother as well.
So they own businesses in the past.
So my father had started, it was a company called Thorold Auto Parts and Recyclers.
Okay.
It just passed over 40 years of being in the industry. My father's no longer with me now.
Right in downtown Thorold.
On Beaver Dams Road in Thorold. My middle brother has taken over and has done a fantastic job.
Oh, wow.
And he's leading that. And so I mean, we were many times at the dinner table, business was spoken about,
of course.
Right? And you learn from people who have done it before you and have done it better, and you can it was a wealth of knowledge, let's just say, to have him there.
Definitely
for sure.
being Niagara based and like being a family, family businesses are very popular in Niagara, and just providing the opportunity for other people from Niagara too. What was that like as, a contributing member of the community and economic growth, that you could provide a living and a career for someone here right in Niagara?
Yeah, I mean, there were many real estate companies here, and I wanted to create a space that gave opportunities for younger people, creative, innovative people that were willing to take a chance in the industry.
Yeah.
And, I have a master's in education, so we implemented heavily a program of training and education into the company of real estate.
Nice.
So I think, a lot of people appreciated that early in their career in real estate. Like when I entered the industry, people just told me, hey, get on the phone and get out there. And that was it. Learn on your own.
Hustle.
So now I think having a plan for the youth really supports them and helps them.
Was that a part of your vision, like being a trailblazer? You wanted to retain a lot of the youth and give them those, not even just real estate, but like the marketing opportunities, like drones, the photography, all of that component too.
Yeah, huge. And I think education for the youth to really like model the people who are doing well in the industry, it was critical for us, and even some of our younger, business associates. They've done very well. It's great to see how far they've come with that support. So education was big in my business.
Yeah. How many offices do you have across Niagara?
So our main one was Niagara Falls on Lundy's Lane. And then we have one in Fawn Hill on Highway 20, one in Niagara-on-the-Lake, one in St. Catharines, one in Fort Erie.
Excellent.
And then we go to Grimsby.
Wow.
And you're 10 years in now. 10 years, right?
Yeah, so 10 years is next week. We have our 10-year charity festival party at the Central Community Center in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Right on Taylor Road there?
On
York Road.
York
sorry,
Road,
okay,
yeah. And so all proceeds are going to the Ronald McDonald House Charities in Hamilton. There's live bands. The Mad Hatters are playing there.
Wow.
The Manivilles are playing there. We have various DJs.
Blast from the past. There,
Yeah, they're coming.
Wow,
Yeah.
the reunion tour.
Frankie's a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're celebrating 10 years, giving thanks obviously to the community that has supported us.
And when's that? You just
That is June 7th.
okay, great. And it's
Friday.
open to the public.
And it's open to the public. Yeah,
Okay.
it's revelcharityfestival.ca. You can come for the dinner and food, or you can come afterwards just for drinks. And
that's
I guess there's a burger bar during the DJ period. And
Oh,
so it's
wow.
gonna be a fun night.
Oh, wow.
Entertainment, and we always throw a great party at Revel. Yeah.
Any big announcements coming at that event?
Well, we just announced something quite large for the company. I mean, Sally McGar,
Yes,
38
course.
years in the business, joined the Revolution, so she's now part of Revel, and we're ecstatic to have her and Rihanna part of Revel, and to collaborate with another great independent company who has rooted themselves in Niagara for so long.
In luxury homes.
Luxury
too.
homes, luxury market,
Yeah.
and they're just wonderful people. So we're really excited. That was a big announcement for us, and we're working on others, but I can't disclose those right now.
No, that's fantastic. And I was going to ask what the Revel was short for, but obviously it's a short for Revolution, right? So that that brings me to my next point: is you started the company, but in all reality, you started a brand, right? And when people see that brand, posted across the region, across the country, they know that's you. So how was that? Was that part of your philosophy to say, I'm not just going to create a real estate company, I'm going to create an actual brand that's really catchy, it's really sharp, and people are going to resonate with it?
For sure, Dan. So my wife and I went back and forth on the name. It had to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I remember when I came up with the name, I called her and I said, I have the name. And she said, share it with me over the phone. I said, I can't. I said, the minute I come home, I'm going to give you the name, and I have to see your reaction. Because she's very critical, but in a good way, right?
Aren't they all?
Yes, they all
Sorry,
are.
honey.
Yeah.
You're gonna get in trouble for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I came home and I said I have the name, and I looked at her and I said Revel, and she just started to smile.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, synergizing with my brother Dean, who taught you, we started coming up with, revolutionizing real estate and join the revolution, and it was edgy and it was catchy and it was innovative. And it was a little bit daring and progressive, and it was perfect. And that was always the intent, was to create a brand, not just a real estate company. And the essence of what the name represents is to celebrate. Celebrate, clients, their home purchase, their first home, their vacation home, retirement, whatever it may be. So I think it's very conducive to the industry.
Yeah. When you got to that top peak of growth too, and as you kept growing, what was the timeline of how did you know it was time to move to the next phase? How many phases would you say you're at today even, of growth?
Well, I was told from my college coach very smart individual. He said, Ryan, there's no standing still in life. You're either moving forward or backwards.
Wow.
And
Very
in
cool.
my business, I always kept the mindset that you have to take steps forward. So when you talk about phases, every day is a step forward. Some phases are larger for us, but it was always to move forward, to introduce the brand to new people, new communities, new cities. And once we started doing that, we started attracting great leadership. So we have some amazing leaders across the province that are doing incredible things, both in the real estate industry and also for their communities. So to be surrounded by like-minded people that challenge you and push you to be better as a person and in business is actually a dream come true for me.
What would you say today is the biggest, are you retail, or are you more commercially focused, residential? What's the latest initiative you're kind of
So we do
leading?
everything. We do resale residential, new construction.
You did development, right?
Development,
Yeah.
commercial. I'm consulting actually a new development project that will be 88 townhomes coming to the Niagara region.
Wow.
From a great Toronto developer on Montrose and McLeod. And I'll give a little early shout out because it's called the Cascades of Niagara.
Beautiful.
Will be a great site close to Costco and Lowe's and down the street from the future hospital.
We need it.
Yeah, and just to give people opportunities to live in the Niagara region, right?
Well, and that brings me to the next point. You traveled States, you went to Europe, you went to Poland, Italy, you went all over the world, and you decided to start your business in Niagara, and specifically in Niagara Falls. Was there a reason for that?
So I just witnessed what my father had done to the community. He was, like I mentioned, he was great in business, but he gave a lot to the community, whether it was various churches. He built a shrine, with a famous saint by St. Pio.
Wow.
He donated everything. He's always given back to his local community. I think he appreciated, and my mother as well, have always appreciated what the community has given to them coming from, a poor area of Italy. And I just wanted to follow in the same footsteps. I was born and raised in Niagara. It was great to me. And I thought, what better spot to start my future business in Niagara? And Niagara Falls, the reason why we chose the location that we're at is my father and my brothers and I invested in purchasing some land in Niagara Falls on Lundy's Lane when I was a teenager.
Wow,
and
smart
then,
move.
Yeah, so it ended up being good in that respect. And that's where we started.
That's fantastic. And, everybody comes on here, they always tell us about the highs of their business and how they scaled their business and grew their business. But whenever you start the business, they're very difficult days and very tough times. Can you walk us some of those, difficult days, tough times, and, what that meant for you, how you pivoted to keep, like you said, moving forward and not going backwards?
Yeah, I mean, every entrepreneur is going to go through some challenging times. There were many doubtful times, many talks I had with my wife. What am I doing? Am I doing the wrong thing? You question yourself and your decisions, but I was, playing the sport of basketball, you have a bad game. The only thing you can do is just work harder and try to have a better game. And that was always the mentality in business. You're going to have some bad days. You're going to have some highs and lows, some bad lows. But if you stay consistent with it, work hard, then you start to see the brighter days and where your business is sort of gearing towards. Right?
Was there any challenges? It sounds like you've always had a natural thing for leadership in basketball. Was there ever a challenge you being a leader to the rest of your team and your agents?
I mean, I think my sport really helped me be a leader. It's tough to be a leader because you have to make some decisions. I pulled my father aside and I said, give me one word of advice in business when it comes to leadership. So it's funny you say that. And he simply just said, when it's time to speak up, you better have the strength to speak up. Okay. And as simple as it was, it's much more complex because there's situations where you have to stand your ground. You have to make hard decisions. And if you can gear up that strength to do so, then you can kind of get through and see, the benefits of it. But there's, obviously many challenging times. Yeah. Those early stages for sure.
No, absolutely. And, one thing our listeners are always interested in knowing is, kind of like you said, you asked your dad for that piece of advice. And, Jim Diodati was our first guest.
Yeah, I saw that.
Shout out to Jim.
Yeah,
so,
Jim,
and
great.
he always says it's very important in life to have mentors. Yes. Mentors who not necessarily have done it before, but can just mentor you on anything in life. So, if you had to choose your mentors, obviously your father is probably your biggest mentor, but anybody else, or just even if you can't pinpoint somebody specifically, just, some of the things that your mentors have taught you.
Yeah, I mean, I have two great older brothers,
yes.
That were around me since I was young, and they were very different, but set great examples for me to follow for sure. My mother is an incredible woman,
Yes.
a woman of principle, very faithful, very religious. So I'm very blessed and thankful for her, and great coaches along the way in my sport. Speak about mentors. Jeff McDonald was my high school coach who treated me like another son of his. And then I had the opportunity to travel, to the United States, and a gentleman by the name of Bill Batty, he was the coach at Northfield Mount Herman in Massachusetts, and then my college coach at Holy Cross. So I was very lucky, to be exposed to great mentors along the way, that I was able to take a piece from each and every one of them. And I think it really complemented me in my stage of my life now.
Which is interesting because, they're coming from a completely athletic point of view. But the skills you learn and the advice you take from them, it's just about hard work and determination.
Yeah,
right?
and even unselfishness.
Yes.
Right?
I guess in the basketball, you have to be unselfish.
You have to be, right? You have other teammates.
Yeah.
Obviously work ethic and commitment and dedication for a higher good, right? So this way everybody benefits with a common goal as opposed to just a personal goal, right?
Yeah. And that's part of mentorship is something that we do have a lot of people come through the doors here at the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub. And that's partly what they're looking for too, is someone to lean on, bounce ideas off of. Dan started a new initiative with some of our coaches doing mastermind sessions where it's just kind of a lot of coaches in one space to, instead of doing that one-on-one style of more just listen to my advice, it's collaboratively. So do you have those conversations at the dinner table? It's probably something similar to that with your family.
I was always told you hang around people smarter than you, better than you. And that raises your level of play.
That's why I hang out with her, right?
And if what you're doing, Dan, I think it's fantastic. To mastermind with other like-minded people who push you to think outside the box, who motivate you.
Exactly.
You're only going to move up. The same thing in sport. You play against the best player on the team.
Yes.
And even though you might lose every day, you're going to get better.
Yeah, well, that's exactly
And the same, I think, application is in business, right? You want to surround yourself with more experienced people and people who are performing at a high level. And this way your game raises with them.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, you kind of throughout the podcast, you've been doing something right. We typically at the end with more the tips and tricks and the high level. But just to help us segment it together, can you give us a rundown of your top 5? From what we've talked about?
Of just some advice.
Tips and tricks for people that just want to be an entrepreneur. Starting a business.
I always live by this model. The more you invest in something, the harder it is to surrender. Wow. And what I mean by that is, I invested hours and hours playing the game of basketball, a sport that I didn't belong in. And when it came time to be challenged and pushed, I was able to perform because I invested the time, and I didn't surrender because you literally had to take my heart out in order to beat me. And I think if people in business have that sort of mindset that, invest the time, be patient with it. It doesn't happen overnight. They say in sport, you have to invest 10,000 hours to be a professional. And in business, I think it's probably double, and you have to work through the highs and lows, and, things will get better if you commit to it. Only good things will come if you commit.
No, that's a great thing is, the more you invest in something, the harder it is to surrender, right? I mean, it could be, that's across anything in life.
Anything in life.
Marriage, kids, family, whatever, right? Sports. And just for the record, it's kind of what your mentality is a Black Mamba mentality. So for the record, are we doing Michael Jordan #1, Kobe Bryant #2, LeBron James #3?
Yeah.
How are we doing this?
You know what? I grew up within the Jordan era.
Yeah.
Much respect to Kobe and his mentality. Yeah. Yes, I thought he was fantastic. I appreciate LeBron and his diversity in the game as well. But it's definitely that mentality for sure. I think you have to have that mentality. My friends question me. They make fun of me because I think a little differently or I do crazy things. Yeah. That's just how I guess I was wired, what I was exposed to as when I was young. And the more someone tells me that you can't achieve it, it just motivates me to want to work harder and
prove them wrong. He said that's been your story for your whole life. You can't do it. You can't play basketball. You're short. You're not. I mean, and I'm under 6'2", so I think we're okay. But I guess today's standards for basketball, you are right. So you're constantly told, you're not going to do, you're not going to make it, and you did. You made it professional in basketball, and then that was just phase chapter 1, right? And then you grew a successful business. I'm sure when you started this, people were trying to tell you, you're never going to make it. You're never going to do it. I mean, maybe even from some of the other bigger players that said it didn't want to accept you, right? And then you proved that you can do it. And it's two examples of how your resilience, your determination, and your mindset made you able to achieve greatness. And I think for our listeners, that's something that you got to take and resonate with, is that, whenever you get kicked down, you just got to come back up faster and stronger. Yeah, and you got to keep going.
Totally agree, Dan. Even for the younger people listening, like, you got to aspire. You have to have reason to wake up and dream.
Yes.
And it's not going to just happen. You have to commit to it, and, like you said, be resilient and work very hard at it, right? But very encouraging for the young and for the youth, and to have this innovation hub here that you guys have.
Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great tool. I think it's a great tool for the youth, for the young. It's inspiring for them. Something that wasn't around when I started my company. So to see this now, I think it's a great compliment to young and older people.
Well, exactly, and that's something that we really resonate with, is our ability to try to help anybody and everybody, and having a one-stop solution for any business. Whether you want to start a real estate business, whether you want to start a tech business, you want to start a restaurant, we have something here for you, and we provide these resources for residents of Niagara Falls and the region, because we believe that it's Niagara region's time, right? For so long, Toronto and Kitchener-Waterloo have had it. And now it's like, let's bring it back home. And there's no reason why you can't grow a successful business in Niagara Falls. And you proved it. Like I said, you're being completely humble here. You're one of the largest, fastest growing companies, real estate companies in the country, right? And and you started it here. You grew it here in Niagara Falls, and you're able to find success.
And you know what? To say the Niagara region, speaking of our mayor, Jim, I think he's fantastic pushing Niagara forward. I invited Jim last minute to our magazine launch party. It was 5:30 or 6 o'clock. The party started at 6:45. I usually give him advance notice. As we all know, Jim's busy. And I texted him, and he showed up. And it just shows you the support that you have behind you when it comes to creating your business, that he will take that time. And he came to the party. We were dancing in the basketball court.
Was that the one with the robots?
The robot was there. Yeah. So I mean, to have that sort of support in the Niagara region, I think provides a lot of great opportunity.
Well, that's exactly it, right? And like a famous saying that we say here, it may take a village to raise a baby, but it takes a community to grow a business. And I think that's exemplified in how you grew your business, is that not only did you grow your business, you had a community, you had family, you had friends, and you had community support to really push you up and make sure you don't fall.
100%. I'm very thankful, very grateful that the Niagara region gave me an opportunity to introduce this brand of REVEL to them, and to celebrate with them. That's why I would love to see as many people at our REVEL Charity Festival next week. But it's in our namesake. That's the reason why I chose the name, is to celebrate with the community that gave us the opportunity to sell their most prized possession, which is their home.
Absolutely. So for people listening, where can they find you? Do you have a website they can find you on? Do you have a LinkedIn or something like that?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I mean, our website for REVEL is revelrealty.ca.
Perfect.
My Instagram is at Ryan Serravalle.
Perfect.
Just my name. And I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Oh, yeah, because I'm sure a lot of listeners would want to follow up and learn more about you, and just learn more about how you grew such a successful business.
Yeah, oftentimes people will send me messages, ask me questions.
Yeah.
If I could give them some advice. So I'm always open to sharing with anyone.
Absolutely.
What's the most popular question you get?
Yeah.
Well,
can you sponsor us?
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. Yeah. No, just like, how are you motivated every single day? Like, what motivates you every single day? And
that's a great question.
I actually did want to, even with like the stress, man. Like, how do you balance? Dan kind of laid out the formula. I know it's the family support, but like, how do you do all of that and stay motivated?
Growing a family, running a business.
Yeah, honestly, I was never motivated. Believe it or not, I know it sounds crazy financially. It was. I'm very motivated as a father. I have two young children. That I want to show them the best example that I could be, and give them opportunities to live and fulfill their dreams. Mm-hmm. So they're my motivation, my children, for sure. And I just give people, I just want to do good every single day. I want to be a good example for anyone. I had, like I said, great mentors, great examples in my life that really set the pathway for me to be in the position that I am today. So I just want to pay it forward back to my community, back to young people who are aspiring to open their own business. So if I can be of any support or answer a question or give them that little nudge of motivation, I hope they know that I'm there, because there were difficult times along the way. I know from the outside it looks like it was easy,
all rainbows,
but it wasn't, and it still isn't easy. Every day is a challenge. but to be thankful that we have this opportunity every single day and to give back, I think is
Well, and that's
my
the thing,
biggest
just,
motivation.
I think in the real estate, it's difficult because you have people trying to poach your people too, right? And, that's always difficult. It's a very competitive landscape, right? So
Very competitive landscape. But I like I said, from my sport background, I enjoy the competitive landscape.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable in that niche. So
You were prepared.
I was
in that.
prepared for that competitiveness and that drive. So it actually fuels me.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
And then Emma, for our listeners, where can they find this podcast?
Yeah, so of course, this is the Made in the Mist podcast. We're doing this here at the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub. We're on Spotify. We have Apple Podcast as well, and we have a YouTube channel.
So yeah, they'll be able to follow us and stay tuned for the next episode. We have another very important entrepreneur from the Niagara region. Thank you for joining us at the Money Mint Podcast Studio, the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub. From my co-host Emma, myself, and thank you so much, Ryan Serravalle, for being here. It's great, and like I said, we will be following the revolution.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Emma. I appreciate it.